fastest lap for that car at this stage, and the car that was battling and swapping the lead with the Corvette sort of every other lap is at the moment back in 6th place in GTE Pro, but they're not out of it by any means.
Very much not. On the last lap around, Stefan Booker 3 minutes 56.6. That's a heck of a lap.
And the lap before, I think he did a 56.2. I mean, he's absolutely on it if you compare that to the guys in front.
Yeah, the leaders, all the other cars above him are doing 3:59s, apart from Vilander, who had a 4 minutes 02 on that lap. So a blinding lap from Stefan Booker. So they're coming back from a bit of a delay. The other Aston Martin entry, the amateur class car number 99, I believe, has been retired. So that car is out of the race. But the battle is just tremendous in GTE Pro, and 23 seconds is shown as the gap now between Gavin and Vilander, and I have to wait and see how the scoring monitor here shows where they are in relation to the overall leader, so we have to really pay attention to find out how close Liebe is behind the first two. But certainly Garcia and Mello, there's a couple of seconds only between those two. That is a battle for 4th and 5th, and they've been going back and forth for hours, basically. In GTE Amateur, it's still the Labra competition Corvette that leads. Pedro Lamy still at the wheel of that car number 50. And in 2nd place in the amateur class is Nicola Armindo, who is at the wheel of the number 67 car. That's the IMSA Performance Matmut car. Armindo shares with Anthony Pons and Raymond Narak, and they're only about a half a minute behind Pedro Lamy. So all sorts of battles all the way down. Jeremy Shaw and Johnny Molan bringing you live coverage, pretty much flag to flag, of the 80th running of the 24 Hours of Le Mans, and thrilled to be able to do so, aren't we?
Absolutely loving it, Jeremy. Now it's getting proper dark out there, isn't it? The colourful lights are out. The grandstands are still, I would say, 3/4 full. Everyone's enjoying it, and it's a privilege to be here witnessing this and watching the cars. And I like this new commentary position, Jeremy. I have to say,
do too.
We're at the level of the cars. You watch the speed they're coming through. You can actually see the driving ability from the guys coming through, how quickly they take this sequence of S's through these chicanes directly in front of us. They come out onto the start-finish, and how much they're able to flow speed through there. And like we were mentioning earlier, how good the Audis look in comparison to everything else out there in terms of stability over the curbs.
Yeah, we've had the last few years. I've done this for 5 years now for Eurosport, and we've been very privileged to have a position right at the top of the ACO tower overlooking the pits. It's a great view of the pits and the front straight, but all the other corners and anything really interesting was quite a long way away. So I heard about it, we were told about a month ago that our booth wasn't going to be available up there. They needed it for hospitality suites. Hey, they're trying to make some money, who can blame them, let's face it. So we were told we were going to have our booth down in the TV compound, and I kind of assumed that we were going to have no kind of a view, just sort of stuck in a box somewhere. But we are, as Johnny said, on the inside of the Ford chicane. And I have to say, Johnny, you talked about being able to watch the cars through the corner here.
Yes.
And it is obviously a totally different perspective from what we get up in the tower. We can see the cars coming through here from the tower. It's about, what, a quarter of a mile away. But I was surprised when I first sat in here, actually, how much speed the cars do carry through this Ford chicane.
Well, especially the prototypes and the GT to some extent. The different reasons. I mean, the GT can take a lot more curve, although the prototypes are taking a lot. Because of the downforce, they can take a lot of curve here. And these curves are quite flat. As you see, this is a leading Audi coming through. And just watch him on that exit as he touches that. Look, the rear bounces twice and settles.
Yeah.
Unbelievable how much speed they can carry through here.
And it's really cool because you can really see where they get on the power and how the cars just jump off the corner.
And as a driver, you can sit here and watch what the drivers are doing. I can see their steering inputs. I can see how they have the transition, because it's basically the Ford chicane, just for those of you that don't know, is a series of basically one quite fast chicane where you can't take too much curve on the first apex, and then you come out and then you go straight away into a short straight into a second chicane with quite large curves leading out onto a pit straight. It's a very important corner because although it's not that much of a straight, it's a reasonable straight up to the Dunlop Bridge from the exit of this corner. So it's quite a critical corner for lap time, and you can actually see the drivers here who are really committed and putting not as much pitch into the car. They're not hitting the brakes quite as hard and flowing more speed into the apex.
And they are taking it in third gear down here, so it is pretty quick. There's a a quick look there at some of the other activities that are going on. You can see the crowd there is at the Nissan stage. There's all sorts of entertainment going on all around this racetrack. And I have to say that Nissan really is putting in a massive effort here. In addition to that entertainment stage, they've also got a sky view system that it's a big jack, I guess. It takes you about 20 people 35 meters up in the air, apparently.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's somewhere down by the Porsche curves. I haven't seen it. I don't think I probably want to go up on it. But
Sounds good.
Well, yeah, all right. I'm quite happy with our view here, actually. The gap from first to second, 1 minute 25 seconds. That's come down by about a half a minute. Not quite sure why. I think they're on the same, pretty much the same pit stop strategy. 115 laps completed by Marcel Fassler in car number 1, Dindo Capello in car number 2.
Well, according to that, Dindo's one pit stop less at the moment than those around him. So.
Yeah, true. The number 1 car was pretty much untroubled. I think he did make it maybe an extra
quite
stop
recently, don't you remember? It must have been about, what, 3-4 laps ago that we were talking about him. I'm pretty sure he just that's when you were talking about the drinks bottles, the red and the blue drinks bottles. That wasn't that long ago. I mean, I know time sort of all blends into one long minute here, but it doesn't feel that long ago.
In P2, Maxime Martin still leads that category by an increasing margin over Jacques Nicolet, and Warren Hughes has now taken over the wheel of the number 48 Murphy Prototypes car, running in 3rd place, and he too is a very competent driver, now showing there's only less than 20 seconds behind Jacques Nicolet. Therefore that ongoing battle for 2nd and 3rd in P2. Enzo Potolicchio next up, about a minute and a half behind Warren Hughes. Then it's Marc Gené moving his way back up the order in the LMP1 car number 3. That was the car that had the problem earlier on at the one of the chicanes on the Mulsanne Straight. It would have been the first chicane, wasn't it, where he ran off the road and did what seemed like an enormous amount of damage to the right front corner of that car, and 8 laps later the car's back in the race. That was quite remarkable.
And moving up the order as well. I mean, I was just thinking, how long is it going to be before they'll be in front of all the P2s and back onto into the P1 category, and probably sort of what, 7th overall, as well as being 7th in P1.
Indeed, it'll be another probably 10 laps or so, not that long at all. Behind Marc Gené then is the next of the P2 cars, Nelson Pansutici in the Signatech Nissan car number 26. He's about half a minute behind Marc Gené, and then Sahir Ayari in car number 49, the Pecon Racing Lola Judd, the open top car. He's about a minute behind, and then Jordan Tresson in the 2nd of the Signatech Nissans, car number 23. So that battle is continuing. Jacques Nicolet has just brought the number 24 erstwhile 2nd place car in LMP2 onto pit lane. I think he's probably due for a driver change. Number 24 car is shared with Matthew Lahaye and Olivier Pla. I fancy it's Olivier Pla's turn to get back into that car, because he's the guy who started the race.
Yes.
And it's his turn now in the rotation.
And he did a superb job, didn't he, in the test days as well, Jeremy? He was they put him in both cars, and he was quickest. He was like 1st and 2nd basically on himself. And yeah, Olivier Pla, obviously another of those drivers reputed to have had a Peugeot contract in his pocket when it all went pop, and doing a superb job. And nice to see him out there. He was actually involved a few years ago in the Zytec program as well, and a fantastic guy, a fantastic driver, and just great to see him out there doing well in P2. And I would say at the moment definitely one of those cars that's in the mix for the P2 class victory.
Yes, indeed. Another couple of notes here on Twitter. From Giles Bovis. Great coverage as usual. Thank you very much, Giles. What would you say the likelihood is of a Daytona prototype entering in the coming years? 0, I'm afraid, Giles. Those cars aren't eligible for this sort of competition. The Daytona prototypes are a very different. They might have some similarities, but they are completely different specifications, and they were not eligible for ACO competition. So afraid not on that one. Andy Prio, who? He, of course, of BMW, following us on Eurosport. Again, great coverage. Thanks, Andy. We pay you well. Say hi to my wingman, Johnny Molan. All right, job done. Thanks very much, Andy. Great to hear from you. Glad you're watching us.
Yes, Andy and I have had a lot of fun together over the years, and obviously he was here at Le Mans last year, and I know for a fact that this is one of the few races that he really enjoyed in sports cars. Probably not a massive enjoyment factor for Andy in sports cars in general, but I know that this race really caught his imagination, as it would any top professional racing driver, and I know he enjoyed being a part of it.
Yeah, very much so. He's concentrating this year, of course, on the DTM in Germany, with the brand new BMW Focus on that series, taking on the established might of Mercedes and Audi, and that's turning into a very interesting competition, isn't it?
It's so competitive, that series, and obviously BMW's first year in, and they're all doing a great job actually, and BMW, I think, surprised a few people by how quickly they got up there and won a race, and are doing really, really well.
Yeah, that's tremendous to see, and is Joey Hand is good to see. I'm based in America these days, so good to see Joey Hand, who's come up through the ranks very well. He raced in Europe, how long ago was that? 12 years ago now. He did the former Palmer Audi Winter Series, did Joey Hand. Thoroughly enjoyed himself. It's taken him a long time to get back to racing in Europe on a regular basis. He's done a fabulous job in the American Le Mans Series for the last several years, won the championship in GT last year, and was offered the opportunity to test for the DTM team, and he tested so well they offered him a full-time ride, and so he's doing a lot of transatlantic travelling now, and I think he was in the top 6 last time out as well. So glad you're with us on Eurosport. Jeremy Shaw with Johnny Moran. We're going to take a very short break, but don't go away. The coverage of the Le Mans 24 Hours will continue. Welcome back to Eurosport's coverage. Haven't missed a thing. We are, what's the time? 10:45, so what's that? 7 hours and change, and 7 hours and 3/4 almost in the books now of the 80th running of the Le Mans 24-hour race. It's still Marcel Vesely who leads in the Audi R18 e-tron Quattro, but look at this. Car number 7 is going to, looks like it's going to be back in the fray very, very soon indeed. That car ran absolutely fantastically through the first 4 or 5 hours of the race. Nicolas Lapierre did an incredible quintuple stint, 5 stints in a row.
Awesome.
And he took,
nothing short of awesome.
And he took the lead back and forth. They were on one lap. He finally took the lead into Arnage corner, and then literally moments later, his teammate Anthony Davidson had a huge crash at the end of the Mulsanne. We're under a lengthy caution, but the car ground to a halt.
I think was that the 31 LMP2?
I hope so.
You shouldn't say things like that. Listen, I'm sat here in a Lotus show. I will not allow you to say that, Jeremy.
What I meant was, I hope it wasn't
all viewers, I'm punching Jeremy as we speak.
I hope it wasn't the Toyota. Well, I should have said that.
Oh no, look, it was the Toyota. Yeah, there you go. That'll serve you right. Yes.
But it stopped right at the end. That is at pit out there.
He's not left the pit lane, so they can actually go and touch him.
Get it, and he can probably coast backwards down there.
Yeah, there you go. There they go, running up the pit lane to have a look at him, and it really has turned to whatever for the Ford Toyota team, and they were doing so well, as you rightly said. Lapierre, you know, at least he got his moment of glory, and the team got their moment of glory, and for Hugh de Chaunac and the Toyota boys, that would have been a sweet moment. But now they kind of knew probably that they wouldn't get to the end, but for it to all fall apart so quickly for them in such a short pace of time must be, well, I know from personal experience, it's heartbreaking.
And they took the lead absolutely on merit. I mean, on pace, he caught up and he passed the leading car number 1. It was absolutely a brilliant drive. And then, unfortunately, we had a long, lengthy caution period while they rebuilt the barriers down in Mulsanne corner. And then almost immediately the restart, the number 7 car, this car here, was involved in an incident, unfortunately even more, with the Nissan Delta wing coming through the Porsche curves. And there was heavy damage. Well, there was contact between the two.
Yeah.
This car came into the pits.
I can't believe, though, that contact has caused all these problems that are happening. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I just think perhaps it's just coincidence. This is what tends to happen at Le Mans. One thing goes wrong, and then something completely unrelated goes wrong, and the next thing is in this downward death spiral, and it all starts going wrong.
Yeah, that's a fair comment, and I'm going to be going down to the pits myself fairly shortly after I finish my stint here. So when I come back on, actually sometime in the morning, I'll...
You're going to leave me?
No, there'll be plenty of other people probably joining you, Johnny. Well, don't worry about that. But it's the long walk back down the pit lane for the number 7 crew. They've spent It's been in the pits for well over an hour.
Yes, it has.
It slipped down now to 44th place overall.
So strange. And this is when you really want the thing to just stop. As a driver, you want to be out there driving for something. I mean, you know, it is difficult, but you have to keep going and you have to keep persevering because you just never know what could happen. If they could get this running again reliably to the end, they're going to gather so much useful data and information for this program. This is still in its infancy. We mustn't forget Toyota, you know, they weren't at Spa. So obviously you're in a situation now where this is really their first true proper test of this car, so they've done incredibly well.
They have indeed. I mean, the plan at the beginning of the season, we talked about it earlier on, was to run one car here at Le Mans and one other race towards the end of the season, and that was going to be the program for this year. It was only after Peugeot was pulled out and the FIA put a bit of pressure on them. Can you bring forward that program so we've at least got a battle between Audi and somebody else, in this case Toyota, in the World Endurance Championship? And incredibly, Toyota said yes. The originally plan was to take one car to Spa. That got delayed because they crashed the car in a test at Paul Ricard. But they've
I noticed they put Alex Wurz in the car there. Sorry to interrupt there.
Yeah, I'd seen Alex getting ready in the garage.
Nakajima can't have done very many laps at all.
No, very few laps.
I've got somebody else on Twitter, so if anyone's got any questions to myself or Jeremy, just tweet me on @Johnny Mowlem, JOHNNY, M for Michael, OWLEM for Michael. Graham has asked me what the rough visibility distance with the headlights in the cars is at night, which is a very good question actually, because sometimes you can see an awful lot's going on ahead, but you'd actually be surprised how much dirt and muck gets thrown up by the cars as they're going through some of these corners. And so quite often you'll go through a corner if someone's just dropped a wheel off or something, and you'll just see a haze of smoke ahead of you. But certainly in the prototypes, when I've been in P1 here, the visibility is very, very good. And what they do with the lights as well coming up to the corners is they have apex, what they call apex lights, and then full beam lights. And the apex lights actually cross across the front of the car, so it actually allows you, because you're never really in a race car looking straight ahead other than maybe on the straights. Going into a corner, you're always looking to your right or to your left, and those apex lights pick up those curbs very neatly and very early and actually give you a chance to actually spot your apex long before you get into the corner. And if for some reason those go out through electrical fault or everything, it really makes your life difficult, and you can lose you a couple of seconds a lap at night around somewhere like Le Mans, where it gets very dark out the back just by not having your headlights adjusted correctly.
Thank you very much indeed, Johnny Mowlem. That was the 6th place car in GTE Amateur, the number 55 car making a pit stop. It was Joel Camathias taking over at the wheel of the car, I think, from Paul Daniels, who'd been driving the previous stint. 6th place in the class. There it is now, coming through underneath the Dunlop Bridge one more time. They are 3 laps behind the leaders in GT Amateur, but still having certainly a good run. In the meantime, I just also noticed that the number 35 car that was leading in LMP2 not so long ago, the purple and black car of Oak Racing, that is the Morgan Nissan, that came into the pits, and that must have been an unscheduled stop, because Maxime Martin was in the pits not too long ago, and all of a sudden from leading the class,
8:52 there.
Yeah, and that was the out lap. So
yes,
it's been a long stop before. He's come straight back in that case.
I wonder if maybe they did a pad change or something. But mind you, that's a long time.
He's just come straight back. No, he's just come straight back in.
Oh, has he come straight back in?
Yes.
Oh, okay, right. Yeah. So obviously got some issues there.
So they're slipping back down the order. Warren Hughes now has a handy advantage in P2. So yeah, there's still a lot going on, isn't there?
There is,
and this P2 battle. We look at the first page of our scoring screen. There's 24 cars on the first page. First 6 of them P1 cars. Then there's a P2 leader. Then Marc Gené. We were talking a little while ago. You were asking how long it was going to be before Marc Gené in car number 3.
Not long.
After that end delay to get back up ahead of all the P2 cars. And yeah, that's right. We thought it was maybe 10 laps or so.
And with Warren Hughes leading P2.
Yeah, brilliant.
Good for the Brits. Peter Dunbreck just ahead of him, and Alan McNish second overall.
For the Murphy Prototypes team. And then there's a whole string of P2 cars. It's wonderful, all the way down to 24th place. There's another couple of P1 cars that have had some difficulties. The number 15 Oak Racing car, Frank Montagny, 13th overall, and Johnny Kane in the Stracker Racing HPD in 21st, but all the rest of those cars in P2. I got a Twitter question here a little while ago from Keith Warren. Do you think that the lack of reliability problems has dulled down the sport? emphatically not one, quite the opposite. It's made it a lot more interesting. I don't want to see cars breaking down left and right. I want to see the sort of battle we've got now in LMP2. And if you think back just a couple of years, really LMP2, it was kind of field fillers, wasn't it? The reliability was horrible. I think ACO recognised there was a problem there. They've come up with this new rules package that, first of all, was meant to contain the costs, and secondly, with production-based engines, it's made these cars a lot more reliable.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more, Jeremy. And you're exactly right that LMP2 a few years ago, it was an easy way, wasn't it, to maybe, or not an easy way, but an easier way to get yourself a Le Mans class victory. But that is definitely no longer the case, and it almost became inherited from the American Le Mans Series, Jeremy, which you know well, obviously, having worked over there a long time. If you remember, the P2 category in the American Le Mans Series almost became the race for a while with the Porsche, Penske Porsches and the HPDs and everything. And I think it's kind of now come over here into Le Mans, and it's just amazing to watch this battle going on in LMP2 between so many different cars, so many different teams, and essentially, obviously, privateer teams, because no factory involvement is allowed in LMP2.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely wonderful. They've done a fantastic job, I think, with the rules in LMP2. And as we heard from John Doonan of Mazda a little while ago, there's going to be a diesel engine in this category next year. A little bit of variety, and it's not a massively costly. It's a customer package is aimed towards privateers, so I think the cost will be sensible, and I think it's again another good step forward for this class. We're joined again by Stuart Hall. Kind of good and bad to see you, Stuart. Unfortunately, you were supposed to be driving this race. The car had all sorts of problems, but you've been kind enough to join us here as a good standby. You were here earlier on. You went away again. What have you found?
I haven't found out a great deal, really. I've just been consoling with the team, really, spending a bit of time with them. These guys have worked very, very hard throughout the last month, and thought I'd just spend a little bit of time with them to, make sure they know how grateful I am. I know the effort they've put in. Wasn't to be this weekend, but it's not to say that we can't get a result at some point in the future.
Well done, hats off to you. That's an excellent thing to have done. I heartily approve of that. The other Pescarolo car, the Durham chassis, that was running very nicely for quite a while, and it's had several lengthy problems, but that still is back in the fray now. Seichiara is at the wheel, and that car seems to be running reasonably well. Yeah,
I think it's had a few little issues, had an alternator problem and some electrical issues early on, but that's a quick car, and most certainly in the hands of Seiji, Nick Manassian and Sebastian Bourdais. Unfortunately with the problems it hasn't been able to, but it certainly could have challenged these front guys in the petrol part of LMP1. But is that the JWA Automotive car being pulled back into the pits?
Yeah, I think it is. Well, they were running. Well, this car was in the pits just a little while ago, wasn't it?
And Peter Dumbreck's just come in with a puncher, left rear puncher on the HPD, and they're actually putting that in the garage due to some bodywork damage on the rear as well. That legality panel's been taken off because of the puncher, so they're going to have to change the whole rear end and make that car legal before they send it on its way again. And
that's a great shame for the JRM team that we talked about just a little while ago. Peter Dumbreck at the wheel, he had a good long stint at the wheel of that car.
You can see there by the body language, he suddenly lost the rear. I love that. You watch racing drivers talking to each other. It's all a series of hand gestures. Obviously, David Bradman standing there waiting to get into the car. He obviously decided to do a driver change whilst they're also fixing the rear of the car, as Stuart says. No matter how slowly you come back into the pits with a puncture, the belts come off on the tyre and it starts flailing around in the wheel arch, and it always creates some sort of damage. And even if you were to come in at like 10-15 miles an hour, it's going to cause a lot of damage. And the trouble is, you don't want to come in too slowly, otherwise you end up losing more time than by coming in a little bit quicker and fixing it in the pits, because it's such a long lap.
And it was a long lap. It was 12 minutes it took, right? So he must have had that puncture pretty early in that lap.
Yeah, absolutely.
All the way around. Great disappointment for those guys. They got themselves right back into contention. They were not far at all behind.
That's such a shame.
Both of the Rebellions, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Such a shame. I still think that the LMP2 winner here is going to be in the top 5 overall. What do you reckon?
Yeah.
Agreed, definitely agreed.
Yeah, at this stage.
You've got 3 Audis there. Possibly one of them's going to have a problem. You wouldn't bet on them both all finishing in the top 3. That gives a chance to one petrol car. Prost in the Lola, Belici in the Lola, the HBD that we've just seen, and then those P2s are there to clean up any mess that's made as well.
Absolutely. And the Rebellion Lolas are running really, really well here in 4th and 5th position. A fantastic effort from both of them, and they're keeping them pretty much going like clockwork, those two.
Yeah, Johnny, you've had experience of that sort of car. You've been driving the Dyson car recently in the States. You know, what can you tell us about it?
Well, I was mentioning to Jeremy earlier on, and this was almost like not sort of making Nakajima blameless in the Toyota to the incident in the Porticos, but those high wheel arches running that really tall front tyre make visibility incredibly difficult when you're going into any corner of any sort of tight angle, and especially going into somewhere like Arnage or something like that. I guarantee you will have no visibility whatsoever of the apex, and I was shocked actually by how bad the visibility was, and it actually made me realise some of these incidents that I was seeing, why they're happening, and especially in the Audi it's even worse for them because the A-pillar is even bigger, so they've got the tall wheel arch and also no lateral visibility, and it just makes it very, very difficult to judge certain areas, and you're literally just turning in and hoping.
So there is the Toyota still in the garage there. They're working on it again. They looked like the car was going to get back out on the track about 10 minutes or so ago, but it's been wheeled back into the garage. And also the JWA Avila car. We saw Joel Prometheus leaving the pit then after taking over from Paul Daniels, and that car too back in the pits. And also in the pits here, it looks more like routine service, however. Tony Vilander has brought the number 51 car in. There is a change of driver going on there. I fancy that would be Jimmy Bruni taking over the wheel of that car, and that is running second place in GTE Pro behind Oliver Gavin, who still leads for the Corvette. So this is Jeremy Shaw with Johnny Molan and Stuart Hall. We're going to be switching across to Eurosport 2, I think. Certainly one of the channels. We'll be back